Harvard students sit in the same lectures as everyone else. Same textbooks, same professors, same internet. So why do they walk out thinking differently, while you forget everything in a week? Most people think it's intelligence. Wrong. Most people think it's discipline. Wrong again. Harvard students don't learn more. They challenge more. And that changes everything. I'm about to show you exactly what they do differently, and by the end of this, you'll never listen to information the same way again. Chapter 1. The Interrogation Mindset. Most people sit in class like spectators. Professor talks, you nod. Maybe take notes. Maybe scroll. You think you're learning. Wrong. You're consuming. Harvard students don't consume information. They interrogate it. Every idea becomes a target. Why does this work? What assumptions is this built on? What would break this theory? This isn't personality, it's training. At Harvard Law, there's something called the Socratic method. Professors don't lecture, they attack. They call on you randomly. They question every statement. They push until your logic collapses. It's uncomfortable. Good. Psychologist Robert Bjork calls this desirable difficulty. The harder your brain has to work, the stronger the memory encoding. Average students avoid discomfort. Harvard students chase it. Example. Average student reads, "Supply and demand determines price." They highlight it. Move on, forget it. Harvard student asks, what if demand is manipulated? What about monopolies? What about irrational consumers? Now the brain wakes up, because confusion forces processing. But here's the problem though. Questioning alone isn't enough. You can ask questions all day and still learn nothing. That's where the second advantage comes in. Chapter 2. Destroying the illusion of understanding. Most people think if something feels familiar, they understand it. Wrong. This is called the illusion of competence. You reread notes, you recognize the words. You feel smart, you're not. In the book Make It Stick, researchers prove this. Recognition is not understanding. Harvard students know this, so they test themselves constantly, not with exams, with explanation. They force themselves to explain ideas out loud. Simple rule. If you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it. Physicist Richard Feynman built his entire learning system on this. Explain it like you're teaching a child. No jargon, no hiding, just clarity. Harvard students do this naturally. After lectures, they don't reread slides. They close the laptop and ask, "Can I explain this from scratch?" If not, they go back. Average students review. Harvard students reconstruct. And reconstruction is painful. You forget things. You get stuck. You feel stupid. Good, because that's where learning happens. Rudiger and Karpik showed this in 2006. Students who tested themselves retained 50% more than those who reread. 50%. But here's the thing. Even if you test yourself, there's still a problem. You can understand something today and forget it tomorrow. That's where the third advantage comes in. Hit subscribe before you forget this. We fix leaks here. Chapter 3. Attacking ideas from multiple angles. Most people learn something once. One perspective, one explanation. Then they move on. Harvard students don't trust a single perspective. They triangulate. Same idea. Different angles. Economics through math. Through history. Through psychology. Now the brain connects patterns. Neuroscience shows this clearly. The more connections a memory has, the stronger it becomes. Your brain isn't a storage system. It's a network. Average students store isolated facts. Harvard students build networks. Example. Average student learns, World War I started in 1914. Useless. Harvard student asks, what political tensions led to it? What economic systems failed? How did alliances amplify conflict? Now it's not a fact, it's a system. And systems are harder to forget. But here's the problem though. Most people don't have time to analyze everything this deeply. So they default to shortcuts. Highlighting, passive reading, watching videos. Feels productive. It's not. That's why Harvard students use something else. Chapter 4. Productive disagreement. Most people read to agree. They want confirmation. They want clarity. Harvard students read to argue. They actively look for flaws. Psychologist Betsy Sparrow called this the Google effect. When information is easy to access, your brain doesn't store it. So Harvard students force friction. They challenge the material. They debate it in discussion groups. They write essays defending and attacking the same idea. Now the brain is engaged emotionally. And emotion locks memory. Think about the last argument you had. You remember every detail. Why? Because your brain flagged it as important. Harvard students recreate that effect intentionally. They turn learning into conflict. Not with others, with ideas. Average student. This makes sense. Harvard student. This might be wrong. That one shift changes everything. But here's the thing. Even if you question, test, and debate, there's still one problem. You might still be learning the wrong things. And that's where most people lose. Final loop. You now know how Harvard students think. They interrogate, they reconstruct, they connect, they challenge. But if you're questioning useless information, what's the point? Most people learn faster, but still focus on garbage. That's why I made this video breaking down how to find the 20% that actually matters. Because learning faster is useless. If you're learning the wrong things, watch it next.